Ojalá que las hojas no te toquen el cuerpo cuando caigan, para que no las puedas convertir en cristal. Ojalá que la lluvia deje de ser milagro que baja por tu cuerpo. Ojalá que la luna pueda salir sin ti. Ojalá que la tierra no te bese los pasos. Ojalá se te acabe la mirada constante, la palabra precisa, la sonrisa perfecta. Ojalá pase algo que te borre de pronto, una luz cegadora, un disparo de nieve. Ojalá por lo menos que me lleve la muerte, para no verte tanto, para no verte siempre, en todos los segundos, en todas las visiones. Ojalá que no pueda tocarte ni en canciones. Ojalá pase algo que te borre de pronto, una luz cegadora, un disparo de nieve. Ojalá por lo menos que me lleve la muerte, para no verte tanto, para no verte siempre, en todos los segundos, en todas las visiones. Ojalá que no pueda tocarte ni en canciones. Ojalá que la aurora no dé gritos que caigan en mi espalda. Ojalá que tu nombre se le olvide a esa voz. Ojalá las paredes no retengan tu ruido de camino cansado. Ojalá que el deseo se vaya atrás de ti. A tu viejo gobierno de difuntos y flores. Ojalá se te acabe la mirada constante, la palabra precisa, la sonrisa perfecta. Ojalá pase algo que te borre de pronto, una luz cegadora, un disparo de nieve. Ojalá por lo menos que me lleve la muerte, para no verte tanto, para no verte siempre, en todos los segundos, en todas las visiones. Ojalá que no pueda tocarte ni en canciones. Ojalá pase algo que te borre de pronto, una luz cegadora, un disparo de nieve. Ojalá por lo menos que me lleve la muerte, para no verte tanto, para no verte siempre, en todos los segundos, en todas las visiones. Ojalá que no pueda tocarte ni en canciones.
prayer for forgiveness. Lord, help me to be humble, for I have wandered far from your goodness and lived just for myself. So give me now the courage to be self-facing and honest. Forgive me for the times I have imprisoned myself in selfishness, in greed, in envy, in arrogance, in anger, in despair, in mistrust. Forgive me for falling into self-pity, self-doubt, self-destruction, or self-containment. May these times of falling and failing lead me to a greater understanding of myself and a new appreciation of your infinite goodness and mercy. Unbind me from the dark clouds that veil my life and fear, from the allurement of empty promises, of self-satisfaction, from the paralysis of self-loathing. To be humble is to come close to you, who desires nothing more, only to love us as you do.
All right. Hello again, everyone. Welcome back, and thank you for joining us for our Dance Escape Talkback session. For those of you who joined us after opening remarks, I'm Chad Michael Hall, Artistic Director for the production and Associate Professor of Dance here at UCI. And joining me here in the Zoom studio are the 5 graduate choreographers for the show you just saw. I'd like to introduce again Ashley Jones, Kelly McGill,
Hello.
Anna Medina, Stella Eng, and Brittany Wu.
Everyone.
Thank you, choreographers. Thank you, choreographers, for your beautiful work. So let's dive in. As I mentioned before the show, conditions of the pandemic continue to force us all into these virtual and remote spaces, but you've all demonstrated how we can continue to transform how we think about the creative process and how we prepare, produce, and present new creative work to our audiences. I'm sure this audience would love to hear about how you all managed to transcend these current social limitations to find resourceful approaches for making dance with the screen as the venue for performance. So Anna, let's start with you. What was the creative process like for you and your dancers?
Thank you for the question. The creative process actually started with the music. We selected a beautiful piece of music by a Tijuana artist. Her name is Carmen Maria, and the name of the piece is actually Ojalá, the name of the music. And so the creative process for me started with choreographing the 3.5 minutes of choreography for all the dancers over Zoom. And so we met over several weeks to learn this choreography all together. And then we went into an improvisation exercise where the dancers explored their own relationship with the storyline. And so we got them to dance with a version of themselves, which could be a past version of themselves prior to a very important relationship in their lives, or with a person of their past that was meaningful. And it could be a good or a bad relationship, but it had to be a meaningful one. And so they explore their improvisation dancing with this person or with the version of themselves from the past. And this just gave them a different level of focus when improvising, because they were pretending like they were with someone else. The level of artistry in my dancers was honestly incredible. I am so grateful for them because they were able to fully commit to the choreography and also to the music. Most of them don't understand what the song says, and they were still very deeply and emotionally connected with the piece. And so it was because of this work that they did that I was able to incorporate the improvisation with the choreography so seamlessly. And this is incorporated throughout the whole piece, which is why they're also mentioned in the credits as choreographers, because I did use chunks of their improvisation in the piece. And I honestly think this is what tied it all together. I don't think it would have been the same result without that. And so, yeah, that's how we were able to build the piece that we have now. Thank you for asking.
Now, to be clear, this process was different from how you usually work, right? So you had your rehearsals all had to happen on Zoom, right? And also, I think that your dancers filmed themselves, I think, as well, right?
Yes, they did all the camera work by themselves, and I think they all had another person there that helped them. But honestly, this is very professional work, in my opinion. I was very surprised.
They did a great job. Let's go to Stella now. Stella, same question. How was this creative process like for you and your dancers?
So over this experience, I can say it's kind of very challenging, but it's also very fruitful. I have 2 dancers. I think it's easier than having like 10 dancers. At the beginning, I started with a team. I have a very clear message that I want to convey to the audience, and then I find a music, and I found 2 lovely dancers that I'm so happy to work with. We have rehearsals on Zoom, all of them, and but however, I have one dancers who live in another city, and I will have to ask her to film herself. You know, sometimes be a choreographer or creator, you really want to have a full control for your product. But like in this situation, I think I really learned to be like letting go, like knowing that I can't have full control, and I try my best to have like a long list of instruction, like where I want to be filmed and everything. But I think that's a really like a good learning experience for me, that how do I adapt in this difficult situation. So I'm very grateful for it. Thank you.
Definitely, and yeah, a new level of collaboration, right, with the performers in these times. Thank you, Stella. Let's go to Kelly now. Kelly, what have been the challenges and rewards of creating a dance through Zoom?
Thank you for that question. I think the biggest challenge in this process has really been trust. Not only trusting my dancers, because I haven't been able to be with them in the studio, be with them in the room, and show them movement or listen to music together. So, really trusting that they're taking my directions and doing the best that they can, and also trusting myself in this idea that whatever we're creating, we're looking at in a two-dimensional screen through little Zoom boxes. And I just have to trust my own ideas that once this is filmed and put together, it's going to look the way that I imagine it, because I can't see it and I don't really have that foresight. So trusting them, who they all did an amazing job, and they were all so willing, especially with our sort of like knocking through the walls and communicating with each other, was a lot of trial and error, and a lot of them just sitting there and being very patient with me as I try to figure that out. So trusting them and trusting myself, I think, was the biggest challenge. And the biggest reward was just creating something that I never would have created without this situation. And I think for artists, we're always striving to do something different and to go outside of our comfort zone, which can be very hard to do. And in this process, I think all of us were forced to go outside of our comfort zone inherently. And this idea that limitations drive your creativity, and we've all, I think, created things that we would have never ventured into without this situation. And as an artist, that's like the biggest reward, even if it doesn't, go to plan, but still was great.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Brittany, how did rehearsing virtually affect your use of space when choreographing your piece?
Thank you for that question. So I think one of the biggest challenges with virtual rehearsals is that you're limited to looking through just the little camera lens. So because I had all my rehearsals virtually, basically whatever fits into the frame fits, and then whatever is outside the frame, I just can't see at all. So of course I was trying to see like as much as possible of my dancer during the rehearsals. So during rehearsals, we kept the use of space pretty small. My dancer, Emily, she was also rehearsing in her living room. So throughout the rehearsals, there's some big traveling steps in the choreography, but she had to mark it down, water it down every time till we got to the filming space. And I had also not seen the filming sites until I was done choreographing the dance. So we had to do quite a bit of readjusting and learning to adapt really quickly to new spaces once we arrived at film. But that being said, I didn't choreograph it to be performed in a living room. So the choreography we used a lot of space. So I think there was just a big shift in the use of space that happened really when we started filming. And we just had to rehearse knowing and remembering that things are going to look and feel a lot different spatially when we're in this new location.
Mm-hmm. Well, that must have felt so great for your dancer, Emily, when she actually got to the location and got to dance down that road.
Yeah, I could run, really run.
Being cooped up in the living room the whole time. Yeah. Right on. Thank you. Ashley, same question. How did rehearsing virtually affect your use of space when choreographing your piece?
So we had one 4-hour block to film our piece, and I chose an indoor space, so we had to follow a lot of different precautions in order to make that happen. And I knew that I wanted each representation of the sins to kind of be in a different area of the church. So I started early. I let my dancers kind of choose what sin they thought they could best embody and show through movement, because I wanted them to be extremely comfortable with the movement, so that if I asked them to do it up on a pew, down on the floor, in between them, they would feel extremely comfortable doing it from different directions under different lighting. So it was challenging in the sense that I had to be creative in a small space, and then also work with them individually one at a time on a limited timetable, as well as, being cautious and sanitary. And then it also kind of created this cool thing where I had to find ways to make the appearance of like the spirit or like Jackie or others appear in the same space. So I used the film to do that because we were limited, right, as far as working together goes.
Yeah, so you were exploring like kind of formal elements of how you can overlay different clips together in order to get different dancers to be in the same space, the same time. Wow, pick your sin. That's another unique challenge for a performer, right?
Yeah, and I think some commentary was like, they are mysterious or they appear kind of neutral. And that's just it though, is when you're walking into, being envious or being lustful, right? If you knew that like a landmine was right in front of you, you wouldn't step on it. It's the fact that it looks alluring, right? And it feels good at the time, is like why we enter into it. So that was another fun thing to kind of play around with them.
Right. Okay. Thank you. So let's turn our attention now a little bit more specifically to the content of these pieces. So we're going to go back to Anna. Anna, the title of your piece is Cenizas, which means ashes, right? So the beautiful song, I really love. In fact, I can't get the song out of my head from watching the pieces now through dress rehearsal and everything. It's just so beautiful. Although I don't actually know what's being sung about because I don't speak Spanish. But so could you tell us what was the significance of this music, and what was the dance about? How does it relate to this music?
Of course, and the song is actually a little dark. So it's a bit of lifting because of the guitar, but it's actually a song about relationships and about wanting to forget, right? So it says things like I wish, right? I wish you could disappear. I wish, the moonlight never shines upon you. I wish, the waves and the sand don't touch your skin, and I wish that you would just, disappear with the air, and
wow.
Kind of language comes from a place of, we had a relationship and you taught me so much, yet I lost you, which is pain, and this is painful, but at the same time, you will always be with me, right? And I will always carry a piece of you with me. And this is where the title Ashes comes from, because the last phrase actually reads, it doesn't really matter how long the flame burns or how intensely it burns, there will always be ashes at the end. And ashes leave a trace, so it doesn't matter if it was a good, a bad, a lengthy relationship, you will always have the memory of it with you. We can't erase memories from our brain, we're human beings. And so I think this intense connection is something that we all can relate with, because it doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. It can be with a loved one. It can be with a friend. And I think now during the pandemic, of singing and dancing about this is especially important for everyone, because I think we've all come to value those relationships that are really gonna make us grow and that are going to stay with us with the rest of our lives. So I think Carmen Maria's voice really embodies that warmth and that feeling of emotion that transcends language barriers. And that's why I picked the song, because I think everyone can relate to that warmth of her voice and that intensity that she sings it with. So thank you for liking it. I'm glad you can relate to it, even if you don't understand what it says.
Yeah, definitely. It's very passionate. Stella, the title of your dance is Filial, and it starts with this dramatic moment of ripping a picture, which as if you or I took to looked like a mother and her daughter, perhaps. And there's also the scarf that seems really significant that gets passed between the characters. So tell us about the inspiration for your work and the significance of the scarf.
Thank you for the question. So I was inspired by a quote from Confucius quote. It's called, "The trees long to be still, but the wind won't cease. The children long to serve, but the parents can't wait." This is a quote that it means that our parents cannot be here forever. Like, we can't be with them forever, and it is very important. And I hope to convey the message to everyone to cherish the time spent with the parents. And I think I was really inspired by my background, the Asian culture of emphasize this philia, which is cherish the parents. So I having this mother and daughter dance. I don't want to talk too much about the story, and I just because I feel like I want the audience to take their own interpretation, like why is it tearing the pictures. because sometimes when you were younger, you were rebellion, and you just sometimes just I recalling the memories of fighting with my mom. But the older I go up, I think it's very important to kind of like cherish them. And the scarf is a symbol of warm care and love, and that kind of love the mom won't say it, and it's just like it will speak through like actions. So that is kind of the scarf being passed down to the daughter, and the daughter just like thinking of the good old memories. Yeah, so that's
See, thank you. Thank you so much. Speaking of symbols, let's go to Ashley. The title of your dance is 7, expressed as a Roman numeral, and we see veils, and there are colors used and other symbols. So tell us about your use of symbolism in your piece, and what inspired your choices for the elements in the dance, like the music and the location.
Yeah, so I definitely had a vision. I had a really clear vision of what I wanted. And when I was talking to the costume designer, I wanted this idea of being tarnished. So like you were once white, and then the color on the costume is this kind of like dark mark. And so in kind of researching like Latin roots and like Roman symbols, I found that with each sin there was an associated animal, a color. I mean, as we know, like rich in Christian tradition, there's a lot of symbolism in things. And so each of the sins had a color associated with them, and therefore the color you see on the filter, the texture within each one of the sins, and the different areas on their garment. I kind of treated it as like a 3-act ballet, if you will. So there's kind of the initial, unlayering of yourself, and trying to not go down a certain path, and then you have these different 7 sins, right, that are around you and are influencing you. And then the final prayer, which is actually also read by a UCI student, Mika Umamera, right, that's like your penance, your forgiveness. You see the white, her redressing herself in the white, kind of like being reborn in a sense. And so, yeah, like a lot of symbolism in the film, but that's also just because there's a lot of symbolism in Christianity itself.
I see. Thank you. Brittany, the name of your dance is Polyphony. So tell us, what was the inspiration for bringing these different elements together on screen?
Yeah, thank you. So I titled the piece Polyphony in parallel with the music. So it's like this process of combining a number of parts, and each of them form an individual melody, but then they harmonize with each other to make one. So in the music, there's all these different voices and sounds layered, and they all come together to create this one composition. So similar to that, the idea behind the title is that as human beings, we all have many parts that make up our identities. So I'm thinking of these parts as sort of individual melodies that harmonize with each other. And so this process of layering all those parts helps us discover who we are, and that happens by bringing all these different parts together into one harmony that is us.
I see. Thank you. Kelly, the name of your piece is Touch. What was the inspiration for your title?
Well, it was interesting. So normally when I start a piece, I usually have an idea of what the overarching concept is going to be, and that influences the title. But in this piece, I really didn't have an idea from the start, and that was intentional. I wanted to see what came up with my dancers and with our space. So we started with each of them doing a solo in their environment, and really just exploring that environment. And as that idea developed, I felt like I really wanted the audience to feel like they weren't alone. But because of COVID restrictions, I couldn't have dancers together. So it was like, how can I show that they know each other is there? They know that there's someone next to them and there's someone above them. So then once we started this idea of kind of knocking through the walls and trying to communicate with each other and make contact with one another. And as I was watching the piece, I was just watching and I was like, they're just touching everything. They just keep touching the walls and the floor and the chairs. And it was an interesting sort of dichotomy that really what they're doing is listening. and they're trying to hear each other. And so that's the sense that they're employing, but it appears that they're feeling. So then just the word touch just came to me as I was watching it, and I appreciated the sort of vagueness of it, that it doesn't give away in the title exactly what's going to happen throughout the dance, but it does put you in a place where you're focusing on, right away, you're like, okay, there's going to be some touching, but they never actually touch each other because they can't be together. So that's sort of where it came from. It just came out of watching the visual pretty organically, and like it summed up the whole situation.
Yeah, thank you. What really hit home for me is this idea of touch. I mean, it's what so many of us can't do right now, right? For a long time now, and we all are looking forward to the moment we can come back into the studio together and give each other a hug. That we can work together and partner, actually have some dance partnering once again. So that was touching for me, and hit home. I want to say congratulations again and thank you all for your works. It takes courage to make art right now, and I just feel really proud of the work that you've all done. And congratulations to your dancers as collaborators. They're filmmakers, your directors, your editors, and all of it. Really, just sort of discovering as you go, and that takes a lot of commitment and ambition, and as I said, courage. So, really, so much to be proud of. So I want to also give a shout out right now to our production team. This production would not be possible without the joint efforts of our highly regarded colleagues in the Department of Drama, Design, and Stage Management programs. Their talents and commitment are essential in helping to manifest the visions of these choreographers, and we are very grateful for their collaboration. So let's just give them a little virtual round of applause. Thank you to all production team, staff, and our colleagues in drama. And thank you all again for joining us for our live presentation, or whether you're joining us on demand, thank you for that as well. We hope these works have inspired you as you search for creative and resourceful ways to continue on your path during these times. We hope you'll consider making a donation to UCI Dance to help us continue bringing these productions to you. And so with that, we'll say farewell for now, and we hope to see you again soon.